Why did they attack Israel?
Well, if you listen to what they say, which I think is the most important way to understand why they're doing what they do, they did it because their goal, and this is very clear not only in terms of what their political leaders say, what their military leaders say, but also it's stated very explicitly in their charter, their goal is to destroy Israel. Part of the reason that this conflict has been going on for as long as it has is there has never been a Palestinian political leader who has said, okay, whatever happened in the 20s and 30s and 40s, it happened. It was ugly. It was terrible for a lot of different people, not least of which were the Jews, right? It was a really terrible period across the entire world. We can't undo that. We have to learn to live together. We've never seen a Palestinian leader say that, never. And Hamas says quite the opposite, that we will never accept the presence of a Jewish state, that all of this land belongs to the Palestinians. And to that end, Hamas controls Gaza. The Palestinians get literally billions of dollars of international aid on an annual basis, right? I mean, like the entire world gives the Palestinians money. And you will often hear that Israel controls everything that comes in and out of the Gaza Strip. That's clearly not true, or this attack never would have happened, right? And so instead of taking care of their people and building a peaceful society and putting that money towards education and engineering and agriculture, they build it, or they put it towards building an almost unbelievably complicated and large network of tunnels underneath the Gaza Strip, and towards bringing in weapons and missiles and just smuggling in as much as they possibly could through the border with Egypt. And they did that because they believe that it is only a matter of time until Israel ceases to exist. And the most important thing that you can do if you're a young man in Gaza is to give your life up to the cause. And that's what they did when they came in on October 7th. All those guys coming in, there's no doubt that they thought that they were going to be victorious. There's also no doubt that they knew that most of them were going to die. I mean, they know that, right? So this is part of their ideology. So that's why they did it.
Okay, and again, to be clear, so Hamas started the attack or Palestine started the attack?
Hamas started the attack.
Okay.
Yes.
And Palestine, because I think you said Palestine has like the political power, but Hamas has strong military presence?
Palestinian Authority. So again, it depends on where you're talking about. In Gaza, Hamas is both the political and the military authority.
Okay.
In the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority is the political and military authority, but then there's also smaller like jihadi groups like Hamas and Hezbollah in the West Bank. So Hamas completely dominates the Gaza Strip, like completely. And the things that they do to their political rivals in the Gaza Strip never make the news, but they're absolutely heinous. And we can talk about that later when we talk about perhaps what is going to happen after, like the day after this is over. But yeah, it was Hamas that did the attack. And within the Gaza Strip, like you will see often an effort to separate the Palestinians from Hamas. And the people that you see trying to do that are mostly Americans and other people in the West who go, oh, not all Palestinians support Hamas. That's not true. It is true that not all Palestinians support Hamas, but within the Palestinian population in Gaza, there's about 40% of the people there, men and women, who completely unequivocally support Hamas and their mission. They're willing to train their sons to die for the cause, no matter how much destruction and how much death comes to the Gaza Strip. They are not willing to say, okay, the strategy clearly isn't working. Maybe we should try something else. No, they support Hamas. And to that end, a lot of times you'll hear Hamas discussed as though they're some like ragtag jihadi group, and they're not. They're not only an organized political entity, they're a highly organized, highly armed, somewhat incompetent military entity. And when they evaded Israel, it was a military invasion. I mean, they're divided into battalions and squadrons, and they're extremely well armed. And it was Hamas primarily that did this. And then after there were something like 4,000 or 5,000 Hamas fighters. I think now they're saying it was closer to 5,000. There was also a significant number of Gazan civilians that came in across the border, and they participated in the looting and the killing, and then also in dragging hostages back to Gaza. So while it is true, I don't think you can say with a blanket statement that any group of people believes anything, right?
Yeah.
You can say that about 40% of the people who live in the Gaza Strip support Hamas. And Hamas is the one that did the attack on October 2nd.
Gotcha. And the other 60% just are against violence and or they're pro-Israel. What are the other 60?
No, they're not pro-Israel at all. I think perhaps they're for sure less willing to use the kind of violence that we saw on October 7th. Here's the problem. We don't really know how much the rest of the Palestinian population in Gaza supports peace, because you can imagine what happens. Well, you don't have to imagine it. I mean, there's so many stories, tragic stories of Palestinians who advocate for peace, and they're dragged out into the public square. Their arms and their legs are broken. They're beaten to a pulp, and then they're shot in the head, and then they're hung upside down from a telephone pole. They're made an example out of. So, I mean, to the extent that I have no doubt that there's a lot of Palestinians in Gaza who are saying, oh my God, this again, like we don't want, even if they don't, there's no love lost between the Palestinians and the Israelis. But there's a lot of people who I think don't want to see this happen. The problem is, if you dare to speak out about it, you don't live much longer.
Sure.